Welcome to Hockey Nights in Vegas, episode 99. My name is Eddie Rivkin. I'm joined as always by Fox Sports Las Vegas and the Vegas Golden Knights pre- and post-game show host, Chris Chapman. This episode, like all others, is brought to you by the Las Vegas Advisor at www.lasvegasadvisor.com, by my very good friend, Dr. John Pierce at agelessforever.net, and by the greatest attorney in all of Las Vegas, that's Joe Riccio at the Marathon Law Group. Chat, before we go any further, I have to thank a fella named Kevin Frith. He's the administrator of the biggest Vegas Golden Knights fan page on Facebook, Real Vegas Golden Knight Fans. They have over 25,000 Vegas Golden Knights fans from all over, not only Vegas, but from around the world. And Kevin generously allowed us to start putting the podcast on his page. So members of the Real Vegas Golden Knights fans, welcome. I'm Eddie. That's Chris. We're going to try to entertain you for the next little bit. So, chap, it is Tuesday afternoon, 2 days until the final of the Four Nations Cup, and we'll talk about the hockey. Let's talk about the hockey first. I think it's been really competitive. There's been a lot of back and forth about the first USA-Canada game. Some people say it was staged and it was overblown and this, that, and the other thing. But I have to tell you, aside from the three fights, the tempo, it was an incredible hockey game. One person I saw compared it to the 1980 Lake Placid. It wasn't that much. But I understand now more than when I first talked about the Four Nations, and I was pretty down on it. And honestly, I still am, for the reason that we'll go into after. But of the hockey itself, I mean, what do you think?
Well, I think it's been everything that we thought it was going to be. I mean, unfortunately for Finland and Sweden, they were just afterthoughts in this tournament. I mean, Sweden played a respectable game against the United States and Canada. They get the W against the U.S. in a game that really didn't matter for the United States. But they took Canada overtime, and they probably should have won that game. If not for Jordan Binnington making a couple of really big saves in OT, Sweden probably wins that game. But I think we got what we wanted, U.S. versus Canada, and that's the final. I think it's a precursor to the Olympics. You know, the one thing that I kind of have my qualms about, I don't think we had enough teams. And what I say might be unpopular, but I felt like Russia should have had a team. And I understand, you know, what's going on with Ukraine and everything. And, you know, but what the Olympics and the International Hockey Federation choose to do, I think is separate than what the NHL does. And the league has not banned Russian players from playing in the NHL. So I feel like they should have been in this tournament. And I think they should have had a rest of the world team, because there's certainly a lot of guys like, you know, you throw out Leon Draisaitl. I know Nico Hischier's hurt, but Tomas Hertl. There's a bunch of really good Czech players, a bunch of really good German players, one who plays for the team that you grew up rooting for in the Red Wings. Ottawa has a really good German player. So there's some good German players, some good Czech players, and they could have made a rest of the world team, and they really could have done a pool play and maybe set it up to where you get a semifinal and a final. But I understand you only have 2 weeks, and it's not like the Olympics where you have a few days before the Olympics start to get the preliminaries underway. But I think the hockey in general has been good. You know, these are the best in the world. And anytime you get a best on best, it's going to be good. It's going to make for good television, and it's going to make for a good tournament.
I think the hockey has been, like you said, everything we expected. It does feel a little bit like the Swedes and the Finns were sort of like chum for a shark kind of thing. Obviously, the tournament was set up to get the final that we got. We got a nice preview of it. I understand your thought about expanding to it. They already said that they're going to try to get to 8, but I don't see it. If it's reserved for NHL players, Czechia maybe has enough to roster a team. Germany certainly doesn't, right?
No, they have one goalie?
Well,
Grubauer.
no, yeah, maybe one goalie, but I I think the biggest thing is if you expand it to 8, at the end of the day, the tournament still means nothing.
Right.
You know,
Well,
if
I
there's yes,
don't tell Brady Kachuk and Jack Eichel
right,
and Sidney Crosby that it means nothing,
okay,
because I think to them it does.
of course, to them it does, but it's also, I mean, it'll never be the Olympics,
Right.
right? They're talking about bringing back the World Cup of Hockey on the, every other year plan opposite the Olympics, which I think is a great idea. But they're limited, like you said. The window of opportunity for these things is very small. And then look at I guess the right word might be ramifications of the compressed schedule, right? There are some scheduling downfalls to it. I don't see how they can get to 8 teams. And if they get to 6, that adds what? One game of pool play? So they
Yeah,
play
I
4
think 6 is a good
preliminaries?
number. I mean, what other teams would they add? Are they going to, like there's not enough Latvians, there's not enough Swiss players.
It has to be Russia. It has to be Russia and Germany if they're going to add 2. But again, we're not a political podcast, so we're not going to get into the hows and whys and ifs, but we can be relatively sure that the NHL is not going to buck from the IIHF or the IOC when it comes to allowing the Russians to have a full-fledged team. But if it was going to go to 6 and the war were to end and the sanctions and their ability to play would be lifted, then I think those 2 teams are how you get to 6. But then you still, like you said, Czechia's got a ton of good players, probably enough to roster an NHL team.
Yeah,
So,
and they have some goalies in the
right.
league as well, so they'd be fine.
But let's talk about my incredibly brilliant look into the future in episode 98 when I told you I wasn't happy. I don't think this is a great idea in between. It took exactly one period for Shea Theodore to be out of the not only that game, but then out of the tournament. And if you saw the hit, it wasn't particularly dirty. It was a little bit from behind, but if you saw it in slow motion, you saw that his wrist went in and got really flexed back in a direction the wrist isn't naturally supposed to go. First, they said he was out indefinitely. Then they said he was out week to week. Listen, the injury report is happy horse shit. I'll bet you a pizza at our favorite Metro Pizza location on
Order the
Decatur.
salad and get Italian dressing.
Yes, that Shea Theodore broke his wrist, or at least has a grade 99 sprain, and probably isn't coming back this regular season. But not only that, Matthew Tkachuk out. Brady Tkachuk played 5 minutes of the first period, out. Hasn't even status for Thursday night's final not announced.
Austin Matthews. Yep.
Charlie McAvoy announced as out, some sort of an upper body, and came down with some sort of an infection or something like that. Austin Matthews out, right? Again, this is a tournament that has no great meaning other than the pride of the players. And there's an awful lot of general managers, and I don't know who the general manager is in Boston, and I don't know who it's
Don Sweeney, who's the head of Team Canada.
Oh, and it's Tree Living in Toronto, right?
Yeah, Brett Tree Living, yeah.
And I'm not sure who it is in Florida and Ottawa, but the bottom line is their worst fucking nightmare just came true. They got superstars that are hurt in a tournament that essentially is for nothing other than their pride. And if you're Gary Bettman, you got to say to yourself, yeah, I mean, it's good hockey. It's great drama. The U.S. Canada is exactly as advertised, but holy shitballs, Chris. The injury bug, that to me is the prevailing, my of all of it, it comes down to how pissed off do you think Kelly McCrimmon is right now?
Well,
how glad is he that Pietrangelo didn't go?
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing, right? But I can say this now because hopefully people who are watching this also listen to the VGK Insider Show. But on Tuesday, I'm filling in myself and Ryan, so I'll give a cheap plug there. But one of the things that I'm going to talk about on the show, and if you listen to the show, then you heard me talk about it, is the fact that the loss of Shea Theodore for the Golden Knights, it's not quite as big of a loss as if it was Jack Eichel or Mark Stone, but it's in that second tier of near catastrophe for the Golden Knights. Shea Theodore has been their best defensive player all season. He's been among the best defensive players in the entire NHL all season. He was on pace to have probably 80 points.
Yeah, 70 or 80 for sure.
You know, maybe
record.
Not be in the discussion for Norris, but be in that next level of guys who got votes, probably in the top 10 of Norris vote getters. This is a big fucking deal for Vegas.
It's huge.
Like I said, it's not quite as if they lost Eichel or Stone, but don't make any bones about it. This is about as big of a loss for Vegas as you could have at this point in the season, not only because it's Shea Theodore, but when you come back, you're going to have a compressed schedule on top of it, and you have to think they're not going to play the rest of the season with all 6 defenders they put in staying fully healthy for the remaining, whatever it is, 26, 27 games. So if you're Caden Korzak and if you're Ben Hutton, you started practicing on Tuesday, get ready because you guys are going to be playing a lot down the stretch starting Saturday night when the Vancouver Canucks roll into Vegas for the first game after the pause. But I mean, this is a big loss. Now, you and I are going to talk about it a little bit, but I think it's one that the team, I don't want to say they overcome because that's selling Shea Theodore short.
You think they can absorb it?
I think they can absorb it, yes. They have the depth and they have the ability and they have the coaching staff and they have the right players in the right position to be able to overcome this. Now, they played well in their last 2 games before the pause, but I think it's a big fucking loss. It's a big deal. It really it hurts. It hurts to lose Shea Theodore, and I don't know if there's any way to sugarcoat that.
Well, before we get to the natural implication of that, let's get a word in from Dr. John Pierce at agelessforever.net. I'm here with my good friend Dr. Pierce. We're going to talk about cool sculpting. Back in the old days, it was liposuction. But then if you see the after pictures, they're entirely bruised up. People look like just death, and the recovery is brutal. Nowadays, there's this thing called cool sculpting.
Cool sculpting, really cool. It's non-invasive. Medical term is cryolipolysis. Basically what happens is fat cells freeze at a higher temperature than the skin cells or other cells in the body. We can freeze the fat cells and not damage any other tissue around that. Those cells will die. They go what's called apoptosis or programmed cell death. They basically disintegrate. The body sends in white blood cells that gobbles up the remnants and it deposits them in the colon and down the drain it goes. Depending on the amount or the area that you're looking to do, it may require 2 or 3, maybe even 4 treatments. It's really, really inexpensive, very, very effective. So if you've got problem areas that diet and exercise aren't taken care of, you got that little pooch or you got some love handles that you want to address, cool sculpting is the way to go. Not a weight loss thing. So, you got problem areas that are bothersome to you, we can target those and get rid of the fat in that area.
This is non-invasive. You come in, you lay in a comfortable chair, the gals take care of you. If you need a little touch-up, you don't have to be vain, so I'm considering it. If you want to consider it, send a message to the gals, www.agelessforever.net. Make an appointment. The first consultation is free. They'll walk you through the entire process, www.agelessforever.net. Send a message, take advantage of the free consultation. Wouldn't be bad to look better naked, would it? So, Chris, the Vegas Golden Knights are the most hated team in the NHL. Probably by the other teams, but certainly by the fan bases of everybody. They fucking hate them. And you and I have been talking about since I can't tell you what episode. Embrace the evil empire,
Yeah.
right? Be the bad guy. Be
I
the
think
black cop.
that
What?
was the name of one of the episodes. I think the episode before they traded for Tomas Hertl.
Right. So embrace it. So, General Manager Chris Chapman, it looks like there is a reasonable chance, and we don't have any facts to back this up. We're just speculating about what might happen come Friday morning, that Kelly McCrimmon, the Darth Vader of general managers of the NHL, might have $11.2 million of LTIR cap space between William Karlsson and Shea Theodore. We talked about just before the break that they can absorb it, and Ben Hutton and Caden Korzak need to be ready. All very true. But do you think that Kelly McCrimmon is sitting in his office going, 11.2 million, piss off the NHL, continue the window of Stanley Cup opportunities, land us another couple superstars, the cap's going up to 105 million in the next 3 years? What do you
Well,
think, GM?
you know he is. Look, there's zero doubt about the fact that if the Golden Knights have all of this cap space, that they are absolutely going to use every single dollar of it if they have the opportunity. You know, it's going to be interesting because obviously today they trade away Grigory Denisenko. I don't know if that has any implications on the cap, but they get
Right.
future considerations. And I think a lot of people wonder what that means. And I have a theory on what future considerations are.
Marchessault.
And no, I don't think that. No, there's no
Okay.
way Nashville's trading Marchessault back to Vegas. But what I think that is that's, hey, Barry Trotz, I need a favor. I need you to retain some salary. Or, hey, Barry Trotz, or maybe Carolina over the summer, I need you to put in a waiver claim on this guy so that this team doesn't have the ability to grab that player. I don't know if that's what it is. That's my theory on future considerations. Not 2 years down the road, we send you a player that we don't like, but you do. No, I think future considerations are you help us out by maybe retaining some salary if we are making a trade, or you do a favor for us. We call you for a solid, and I think that's what that is. And Grigory Denisenko, a guy who clearly was not working here, wasn't going to ever really see ice time in Vegas. So why not? Why not get something out of it? But getting back to the cap space, look, there's a lot of guys that could be on the move. And you have this, and I think it's 100% accurate, this no player over 36 rule. So
Yes,
what you have
100%.
what you have to do is get a player who is under the age of 36 and also has term left on his contract. So when I think about a guy who has term left on his contract, is under the age of 36, in fact,
God, don't say it.
he's 33.
You're
No,
going
what
to
do you
say
think?
it.
What?
You're going to go ahead.
I was going to say Braden Shen of the St. Louis Blues.
Oh, nice. That I thought you were going to start out with something else that started with a B and ended with Marchand.
No. Now listen. Now, I am a big Brad Marchand fan. So if there was a way for the Golden Knights to acquire Brad Marchand, I would be all in favor of that. But he doesn't check either of those boxes. He's 37, I think, and
He's
he has no term left on his contract. This is a team that's going to have to give away something.
Yeah.
And the last thing you want to do is give away Brendan Brisson, maybe, and get a rental. Now,
they're not going to, I think you and I disagree. I don't think they're in the rental business.
No, they're not. No, I don't think so.
I think the terms and conditions are the player might not have to have term, but it has to be like Hannafin, right? They knew they were re-signing Hannafin. Hannafin said he didn't want to play on the West Coast and this, that, and the other thing. And I get it. His family is there. Get it 100%. But the minute he came out here and he hung out with Jack, it was over. It was a re-sign. It was easy. It was easy. That structure, I think, is the only way that the Golden Knights pick up somebody in the 30 to 32-year-old, call it, block. They either have to have a year left of term, or the Golden Knights have to know that they're going to be able to sign him to close to that 36-year-old ceiling that we've talked about in the past. And I disagree with you. I think on the surface, there isn't a lot of players who really fit the bill. And I think Braden Schen's actually kind of a brilliant pick on your part. I'm happy you didn't say Marchand because that's a hard no for me. But I feel like, and I think that this might be the year where, similar to last year, at 11:59:47 a.m., Kelly calls the central office and says, we've got something cooking. And the next thing you know, Tomas Hertl is here. With 11.2 and the cap going up 6.5, 7, 8 million next year, and then continuing on that elevation the next couple of years, Kelly said, oh, this could be a sleepy kind of thing. We don't feel like we'll be as active and stuff like that. I got a funny feeling Kelly's going to go big game fishing again, and it's going to be somebody that we had no idea, that was on nobody's radar, exactly 100% like Tomas Hertl was last year.
Yeah, I have a couple of other names for you. What do you think of JG Pageau? He would fill a need as a bottom six centerman, and he still has some term left on his deal. Now, he is 33, so I wonder if that's not something that the team would consider because of the age that he's at. You know, another player, Eddie, now he's not a center, he's a wing, but a guy who is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. He's 27, and I would make the case that he's a borderline, not superstar, but a really damn good player. And a lot would depend on what this team does out of the break. But what do you think of Brock Besser?
Brock Besser is really intriguing. You're right. He's not a bona fide superstar, but he is an A-level talent. Problem is he's in the division, and it would be sort of a king's ransom, I think, to get him. And I don't know if he's the earth-moving king's ransom, get a third team involved, swallow some salary, cash chips for future considerations kind of player. He's pretty close, but I feel like Vancouver would be really reticent to trading him within the division. And
yeah, I think that's
I think I would take him in a second. Don't get me wrong, but the give back would, I don't know if it would be their 2027 first, but it would probably be a couple of seconds or a second and a third, something like that over the next couple of years. 100%. Take them in a minute, but I think that the go back is going to be too high for Vancouver to make an interdivisional trade. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think that they're going to be modest sellers at the deadline, but I don't think Brock Besser is going to be one of them.
Yeah, I saw someone throw out Kyle Palmieri, and I kind of laughed at it. I'm
Garbage.
like, get out of here.
Garbage.
There is no way that they are picking up. I shouldn't say no way, right? Because this team is definitely one of those teams that could, pull out a surprise. But I don't see Kyle Palmieri being a guy that they would be interested in. Now, you and I are both big fans of the kid who plays in Buffalo named Joel Greenway.
But wait, before we get to Joe, I have 3 more names for you. But before we get to that, let's get a word in from Joe Riccio, the greatest lawyer in all of Las Vegas, from
My
the
guy.
Marathon Law Group. The reason that Chapman is here is obviously he's tricked his parole officer into keeping him out of the Hooskow. So thanks, Joe. I appreciate it as the host of the podcast. So let's get a quick word in from Marathon Law.
I'm here with Joe Riccio from Marathon Law Group. And Joe, sometimes when couples go through divorce, one of the partners will deprive the other partner of visitation with their children. Obviously, this is never a good situation for anybody. So what steps can someone take to maybe deal with this type of issue if it arises?
Well, thanks, Chris. One of the most important things you can do is make sure that you have a court order. And in the state of Nevada, over the last several years, the Nevada legislature has moved towards involving both parents and finding it best for children to be involved, or parents to be involved with both children equally, both on the legal custody and the physical custody side of things. So if you're being denied time or deprived time, whether it's in a court order or not, you definitely want to take measures to prove or at least show the court that you've been making those overt efforts and that the other side has been depriving you.
So maybe like keeping a calendar or something like that and marking when you have visitation with the child, maybe marking when you should and if you don't get visitation on that particular day.
Yeah, absolutely. Not only could you keep a calendar log, but there's applications that the parties can get into without the court for free that allow them to communicate that the court can look at when that time is right. And then there's other mechanisms that you can engage in as well, such as text messaging and emailing and making sure you're keeping those records.
All right, Chris. I like Cousins. I like him as a middle 6. He's had 2, I would say, down years. But I think a lot of that has to be attributed to the fact that he's in Buffalo, and Buffalo flat sucks ass.
Yeah,
they suck ass as an organization. Everything about them sucks ass. The fact that they've had, what do they have? 3 number 1 overall picks on their roster, 2 on D, and they're awful. So he is the kind of reclamation project that I think Kelly might be into. He's a middle 6 guy. He has scored in the league. He is defensive responsibly. He has some PK in him. So I like him. I love Greenway. Listen, we saw him in the press box. What was it, a month ago?
Yeah.
And he was like in sweats, right? Normally when we see the players, they're all suited and tooted up and all happy, and right?
Yeah.
Well, not happy because they're in the popcorn row. But
dude,
he's a giant human being, man.
Yeah. And listen, are you going to be the guy to tell him not to wear what he was wearing in the press box?
No, fuck no. No.
And you're a big guy, you're not a small guy.
No.
And he towered over you.
He makes me look like Ashley Weiss. He's giant and he's mean.
Yeah.
Right? He's mean. He's the perfect keep the flies off the honey kind of guy who has enough skill to play 3rd or 4th line, but will hold anybody accountable for their misdeeds and misbehavior toward Golden Knights players. So I love him. I'll take both of the Buffalo Sabres, and they can't have Connolly. He's too good of an offensive player.
But if you're Kevin Adams, that's where the conversation starts and ends.
Nah, I don't think so. I think it can be Brisson and Caden Korzak. I think it could be Caden Korzak in a third.
Yeah, but the problem is you don't have Shea Theodore anymore, so now Caden Korzak becomes a lot more important.
For sure. For sure. But, listen, you and I are both big fans of Ben Hutton.
Yeah.
The fact
like
that he
Ben.
cannot play for 8 months at a time, it seems like, and walk into the lineup and never miss a beat. He's on the most affordable $900,000 contract in the NHL. He's a guy who would be middle or bottom pair in at least 15 or 20 NHL teams roster right now, right? But it is a great luxury that the VGK have that they, before Shea Theodore and the whatever ails Alex Pietrangelo, they had a D-core that was 8 deep with legitimate, night in, night out, everyday NHL defensemen. So it's a good point, but, there could be a bombshell D move coming too. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know who's out there.
We weren't expecting Hanifin.
We certainly weren't expecting Hanifin. We weren't expecting Hurdle. We know that the pro scouting department of the Vegas Golden Knights is as good as any in the NHL.
Well, I would make the case that they're the best.
So I feel like, let's see, today is the 18th of February. 18 and 12 is 28. It's not a leap year. 12 and 7. We have 19 days. Look at me doing fast math on the podcast. Holy mackerel. 19 days till the trade deadline. It's been great so far. It seemed like there was sort of a de facto trade deadline for the Four Nations. But the real trade deadline being on March 7th, I just feel like there's going to be some big moves. And I feel like Colorado might be a seller because they're not that good this year. Well, they're not a cup contender. I think Minnesota could be selling. I think there are some teams right now that if they don't come out of the gate barn busting.
Let's put it this way. If Minnesota decided to sell, there's one guy on that team that I look at as a really damn good player who slides under the radar. And I think he kind of fits what this team does, what they like. Problem is he's under contract for the next 4 years, but I really like Joel Eriksson Ek. He's their alternate
number,
captain.
Though, right?
5.2. By the way, his agent, name you're familiar with, Claude Lemieux.
Fuck that guy. Coward, pussy.
I knew you were going to say that. But I think Eriksson Ek, not a realistic move just because of the term that he's under. But I'm going to throw one more name at you, and a guy kind of in the mold of Greenway. I don't quite think he's as nasty as Greenway, but a team that generally is in the position to where they should be buying, but this year they're not very good, and I think they're going to miss the playoffs. Pleased with Brad Marchand in Boston, and that's Trent Frederick.
I like that one because he's a little gritty, not a lot of gritty, like you said.
He fights though; he's not afraid to drop.
But he'll slug it out.
Yeah,
he is responsible defensively. No, I like that. And I forgot the third name from the Buffalo Sabres, Bowen Byram.
Oh yeah, I was reading that they might be looking to move him. They just got him. They gave up Middlestat for Bowen Byram.
Yep.
Who, by the way, a lot of the Colorado fans were salty with Vegas for. I don't remember who it was that hit Bowen Byram in the preseason 2 years ago, but a lot of animosity from Avalanche fans. He never recovered. He seems to be okay, but I mean, it's unfortunately part of the game. But he was a guy who I think he's kind of never really lived up to expectations. And when you send someone from Denver to Buffalo, basically you're sending them to Siberia. It's exile. Yeah. You're going into exile when you get traded to Buffalo. And you know what's funny? I don't think there's any other organization in the NHL where you're like, Yeah, this team really doesn't like me because they're sending me here. Now, in the case of Alex Tuck, it was a little bit different. He's from Syracuse. It's a
Ottawa?
homecoming for him. No, I mean, look, Claude Giroux signed in Ottawa. He was a respected player, and, they're at least trying in
Yes.
Ottawa. They haven't been very good at it, but they're trying. New ownership. So I think, yeah, bad organization, bad history, but I think they're at least trying. You know who could get there? I think Seattle could get there.
Yanni Gord?
That's a guy who I would, from previous podcasts, I'm a big fan. Free agent, cup experience.
Yep.
Scored some big goals in the playoffs for Tampa. Pending UFA, but a really good player and a guy who's probably going to be on the block. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting because the way that and as you said at the beginning, George and Kelly, they know exactly what the timeline is on Karlsson and Theodore.
For sure.
You and I, we just guess. So if they know that these guys are both going to be out significantly, and they know that the cap is going up significantly next year, look out. They will pull the trigger on. Listen, if it meant them acquiring a star player, they would pull the trigger on just about anyone being moved. I mean, once again, here we are, Golden Knights, potential LTIR cap space. I know it pisses off people in Edmonton and Colorado and Dallas. Guess what?
Wait.
We don't really give a fuck.
Dallas has almost the same amount of money between Sagan and they're up over 9 or 10 as well. So they got nothing to say this year.
Yeah. Well, the point is, who fucking cares? It's within the rules. Guys are hurt. Nobody purposely puts good players on injured reserve. Stop your crying.
Listen, if the owners wanted to change it, there's a CBA conversation coming up that the conversations have actually already begun. If it was that big a deal to them, they would change.
Elliot Friedman would be reporting that it's Pierre LeBrun would be telling us that
this is on the table. Happening.
It doesn't seem like it's going to go away. So
none of that's happening.
A few sour grapes. It doesn't change the fact that it's within the rules. Every team has the ability to listen. You should be able to. If Connor McDavid gets hurt, the Edmonton Oilers are fucked. If he misses 6 weeks, if he misses the remainder of the regular season, you don't think your team should be able to go out and use that cap space? It's not being utilized if a guy's on IR.
Right.
So,
LTIR.
I got no problem with it. I'll never have a problem with it. I'm all for the players getting the most amount of money possible. And you know what? No offense to Bill Foley, but if he has to write a check to Shea Theodore and William Karlsson while they're on LTIR and it helps this team acquire a bona fide star at the deadline, it's not my fucking money. I don't care. Spend it.
That's the edict. Win, right?
Listen, you watching this, that's all you give a shit about. Winning. You buy tickets, you go to the games, you spend your money, you buy merchandise. You don't want to root for the Sabres. You want to root for the Golden Knights.
Ow.
And I know a lot of people I know a lot of people from Buffalo. One of my best friends, Nathan, he's a scout with the Kansas City Royals. He's from Buffalo, diehard Sabres fan. He cried. He fucking cried when they lost the cup to Dallas. And then he knew it was over. He said, I know we're never getting back.
Never's a mighty long time.
Well, for Sabres fans, I mean.
So we've got 25,300 new friends at the Real Vegas Golden Knights fan group. You want to share with them the cool thing that we do that no other podcast does, or you want me to do it?
No, I could do it. Listen,
go for it.
Courtesy of my lawyer, Joe Riccio at Marathon Law Group. Listen, he's awesome. Divorce, DUI, accidents. He handles it all. His partner, Boris, he's a great immigration lawyer, which, by the way, my wife is an immigrant. I'm dealing with some bullshit right now that I may actually have to go contact Boris about. But They handle it all at Marathon Law Group, and they have been a great sponsor of this podcast, coming on board preseason with us. And they are giving away, or we are giving away, courtesy of them, we're giving away Joe's personal tickets for the Red Wings game, which is, I don't know
March
the
16th.
date. March 16th, day
Sunday
before St.
afternoon.
Patrick's Day. So, yep. For the Detroit Red Wings, Original Six franchise, a playoff contending Detroit Red Wings. That's going to be a great game because you know that the fans from Detroit are going to make the trek to Vegas for this one. There's a lot of you who might be Red Wing fans who have converted to Golden Knight fans. It's a great game. Thanks to Joe Riccio, Marathon Law Group. Section 4, I don't know the row, but I know
don't tell them the row. Lower
but
bowl,
it's
section 4.
Lower bowl, section 4. You're right in the blue line. If you look wrong, there you go. They're right about here, the seats you can see. So that's where you'd be sitting. The Golden Knights shoot down there once in the regulation, and they're great seats. Oh, by the way, you get parking, which is always nice because it's $35 to park, and you get free lunch. You, me, Eddie, we'll go get lunch. El Dorado Cantina. They're on what is it, Dean Martin Drive?
Sammy Davis.
Wrong next to
a large building.
Yes, a large building that used to be a gym.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Hey, you and I have been here long enough to remember when it was a gym.
Yeah. So that's the golden giveaway, folks. 2 tickets, March 16th, 5 p.m. puck drop versus the Detroit Red Wings. Lower bowl seats in section 4. Free parking. Free dinner, pregame lunch with Chapman and I at El Dorado Cantina. All you have to do is like this episode, subscribe to the podcast.
Share.
What?
Share it.
Yeah, share it if you can. And the word to put in the comments on the YouTube page. Please put the comments on the YouTube page. Let's go with Shea. S-H-E-A. So we need you to like the episode. We need you to share the episode. We need you to subscribe as we need to get to 1,000 subscribers so Chris and I can make about 7 pennies for doing the podcast for you. So like, share, subscribe, comment the word Shea to be entered into the drawing for 2 lower bowl tickets to the Vegas Golden Knights versus the mighty Detroit Red Wings on March 16th. That wraps up episode 99. Episode 100 is coming next week. Cross your fingers and toes, boys and girls. We have a massive surprise for you for the 100th episode. We hope our guy G Money comes through for us. That's all I'm going to say. But thanks as always to our sponsors, the Las Vegas Advisor at lasvegasadvisor.com, Dr. John Pierce at agelessforever.net, and Joe Riccio and Boris over at Marathon Law at marathonlaw.com. Episode 99 is in the books. Thank you all for watching. As always, we really, truly appreciate it, and we'll see you again next week. Keep your fingers crossed, folks. We've got a big one coming.